God transformed my business because I submitted my business to him first. You got yourself into a room that you didn't feel comfortable with
Yeah.
so that you can elevate and grow. Your spouse is not there to comfort you. Your spouse is there to make you grow. That's been the best thing I've ever done, is that I can only focus on myself and becoming the best version that I can be instead of looking at what I can change on the other side. There's two scenarios that I'll tell my clients is you're going to say two things to me. Number one, I'm glad I did, or number two, I wish I would have. And then I'll let them make the decision. God has to be in control of your business, and making sure he owns your business was one of the biggest changes that I've made in my life, and it's been such a huge impact.
Welcome back to Construction Royalty Podcast. We're here for round 2 in 2 months with Keenan Garcia.
What's going on, bro?
Good, man. How are you?
Glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. Last time we had a conversation, this thing was just flowing, man. Like, it wasn't really an interview style. It was just like going back and forth. You know, we went deep on some topics, and
Yeah,
you know,
we
plan
did,
to do
bro.
the same now. We got some time.
Yeah, I was reflecting on that, and it's kind of crazy because we did the same thing that we did last time. This time, we all went to the gym.
Yeah.
We went to church.
Yeah.
Got a great message from Pastor Keith. So I do like that. One thing I've always admired about you is your consistency to a routine.
Mhm.
And it aligns with mine too. So thank you for being who you are. I just want to, as we start this thing off, is honor you. It's kind of crazy because
Appreciate it.
I've watched you from the very beginning, and we were talking earlier this morning at the gym about dieting. Like, you eat the same thing
Yeah, it's
every single day. And I'm the same way, because I think if you find the right people and align yourself with the right people, you can push each other. So I just want to say thank you for pushing me this morning, because I didn't want to get out of bed.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think that shows character. And man, this is a little upgrade from last time, though.
Yeah, little, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that I do want to dive into later on, is like your circle, right?
Yeah.
But for the people who like didn't watch the last episode, didn't listen to it, or just new people, man, just tell the audience who's Keenan.
Yeah. For the people that haven't seen my story or heard my story, Keenan Garcia, I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and 32 years old. You know, and last time that we spoke is my business is completely changed, and I'm in the consulting business, I'd say. So today I'm wearing roofers selling solar, and what ultimately that is helping roofers, either if you're independent or a company, add solar to their business. And this has probably been the hardest part in this like kind of transition, is finding the right installation company. Where there's good installers is bad. And I've been through actually both sides of the story. So that's actually why I wore this shirt, because I think it's so important to go and tell people what you've been through in business and just in life in general. But last time we spoke was going over background about where I was born, what I went to college for, and then fast forward to this day is God transformed my business because I submitted my business to him first. And that completely changed everything, where it's like I'm asking God for permission. So I think what I took from that is that after these past 2 years, I've reflected on the change, and you make that one little shift, it's changed my whole aspect of how I do business. So I'm in the solar industry, so that's what I do full time. Also I'd say upgrading into bigger projects. So commercial solar is really what I want to start focusing on, and building my portfolio where if you're not offering it, you know, you're missing out on an opportunity for that high ticket offer. So I think last time we spoke about Myron Golden, he has 4 moves. And do you know these?
4 moves?
We never got, so
No.
he has a book, and it's called Boss Moves. And there's 4 moves that he teaches that you can apply in your business. And I've been doing this. The number 1 is lead generation, which is, I think, most important in any business, is to generate leads. So I've been, you know, focusing on how to generate the right leads that come into the business. Number two is lead conversion. So just converting those leads at a higher rate. Number three is a high ticket offer. And what he put this in a scenario with was Mercedes, the basic Mercedes. And then they were missing out on an opportunity for the high end buyer, like the Maybach, right? So they created this high end luxury car. So Rolls Royce or the Bentley wasn't taking their business. It was actually something that Mercedes did very smart. And I can use that concept where if you don't have an offer for high ticket, that means someone's going to another provider.
Yeah.
So that's the third one, is having a high ticket offer in your portfolio. Because if you don't have it, you won't be able to even make that offer. And then the fourth one is continuity. And continuity is a newer term for me, is having residual based income within your network. One of them, a good example is go high level, or anything that's reoccurring payments. So having a community like school. I don't know if you heard of school platform, like Alex Ramosi.
Yeah.
So I've been really focusing on those 4 moves.
Subscription based models.
Yep. Where you build a platform or leverage a platform like school or go high level, and all of the work that you've done within your niche and industry, give it to them. And as long as it's worth the value, people will pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been focusing on for the past, I'd say, 2 years. I've been following Myron. Is, okay, he teaches a system, and he actually builds it based on the Bible, which is the best way to follow on any business. But lead generation, lead conversion, high ticket offer, and continuity. So I think that's probably the most important thing that I think you and I do, is follow entrepreneurs that have the proof. Like, show me the receipts.
Yeah.
Even our Pastor Keith.
Yeah.
Like,
he has the receipts.
So, with that being said,
how did you get in that? Because you moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
You're not from Dallas originally, but you moved here. When did you move here?
I moved here almost 7 years ago.
So, and you moved here, you didn't know anybody?
It was kind of crazy. I literally knew one person, and the person that I knew was the guy that recruited me here. And I was in door-to-door sales, knocking doors for an alarm company. Then I got into door-to-door for real estate, foreclosure. I don't know if I talked too much about that, but you can get public, data from anyone that's going in forbearance, where they, hard times happen, divorce, probate, tax forbearance. And I would go up to their house, knock on their door. And it was just a bigger scale. So I ultimately did that for 2 years, and then I got into door-to-door solar and virtual solar. So about 7 years ago. Yeah. When I moved here.
And door-to-door, what did you learn from door-to-door? Because I feel like a lot of the OGs, the OG, like the entrepreneurs that we follow, like the people that have the receipts, I think most of them have done door-to-door in the past. That's how they started.
I'd recommend it to anyone. I actually took a lot from that. First is, how to overcome rejection. The majority of the doors are going to tell you no. Mm-hmm. So at the very beginning, whenever you knock on a front door and someone says no to you, it doesn't feel necessarily good. Yeah, but if you do it so many times and you get used to saying, okay, I'm used to this, I'm not looking for the no's, I'm looking for the yeses. That's the first thing I'd recommend is to overcome the fear of rejection. Second thing I learned was communication. Like, if you're talking to people every single day, you're shaking hands, getting inside homes, and getting contracts signed. I learned so much on how to communicate, because daily we would have like a team training, and we would master our craft, sharpen our axes every morning. We'd go out on the doors and apply that. So that's the second thing I took in from door to door, was better communication skills. And I think the third thing that really helped me was if I can go through that, I can do any type of sales. Like, that's the hardest, in my opinion, going to knock a cold door. It wasn't a hot lead. They weren't calling for our service, but you get dropped off in a neighborhood and your area is like right here. And if you go outside your area, then that's someone else's hood. So it built resilience. Like, I could work, go out there and make that certain dollar amount. And now it's nice because sometimes I have to go back to reflection on, how difficult it was, because now I do business from virtual and home or in my house. So it's nice because I can just go back and say, this was pretty difficult. And I should be grateful now because I'm not out there sweating or getting objections and all of the things that I had. Yeah. So I'd recommend it to anyone. It's definitely not comfortable at the beginning, but once you start to master your craft, it's fun. So,
yeah. So when you moved here to Dallas and you kind of started getting to like know the area, know the people, how did you start to make friends, outside of the guy that brought you here or outside of other coworkers?
Yeah. I think for me, I found communities. So whenever I say communities, it was actually a company that recruited me here, and it's in the network marketing industry. So anyone that's in that field you're always trying to reach out to people and connect, because the more people that you connect with, you can bring in the opportunity. So I think that was the biggest thing for me was I got introduced to one person, and then I just put myself in rooms where you would meet other people that had the same vision, right? And I think that's probably you and I have in common because we go to conferences that, back in the day, Ryan Stewman was hosting. It was so nice because, you might not know that person, but you know why they're there. They have the same qualities, same drive, same mission. So I think that's what network marketing does. And nothing against the industry, but they know how to bring culture. Their events that they have is like, they're all like-minded. So if you see someone there, they're probably the same mindset. They have a bigger dream.
Well, I remember that's how we met.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
What was it? That was it at Apex, one of his conferences?
It was. I think it was the day. I think it was the day before. It was the day before one of the events, like a one-day event.
Yeah.
But it was like when they were doing the tattoos.
Yep, I got mine right here.
Yeah, I got it right here.
You got it on your wrist?
Yeah. So that's when I met you, and that's when I met Kobe.
Yeah.
That same day, yeah.
I remember that, bro. And that's something I don't know, I think you came up to us, and I'd have to say that's something I admire about you, bro. It's like you're getting uncomfortable by meeting people and getting your name out there.
Yeah, those places.
I think you came up to Colby and I, because I knew Colby.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you guys were there together.
And you're like probably just coming up to see what's up, and I look up to that, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember the first event that he hosted. It was here at the, I don't know what floor it was. It was like the 7th floor or something.
Yeah.
You remember those two?
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Old school on that. Yep.
7th or
top
whatever
building
floor.
there. Yeah. I remember.
I walked in, bro. Like as soon as I walked in, I was like, damn, like what am I doing here? I don't belong in here. And I just like from the start, as soon as I walked into that door, like I just felt nervous right away. I was like, holy shit. And then I saw the room packed, everybody's talking, everybody knew each other. I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. Some like 20-year-old something kid.
That was probably the best thing you did, though.
Yeah, 24-year-old kid or something, like just walked in,
What
not
made
knowing anybody.
What made you want to go to something like that? Like, what's the inner
I mean, it started like
Irving
way back,
say
bro.
to yourself? Like, what do you say to yourself? Like, why do you want to be in that environment? Like, just so I know a little bit more of your mindset.
Yeah, I mean, it started way back with that, with my dad. I told you last time we were talking, it was my dad that instilled stuff in me. Like one thing that I told you this last time, where he told me one of the things that like I'm always gonna remember this is like, it doesn't matter if you're gonna continue this electrical thing or go into another field. Just make sure that if you go into this other company, industry, or whatever, make sure you're one of the top
best.
people or you own the company.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not going to do this electrical thing, like, it's fine. Like, you know, I'm going to support you.
That's good.
And he always taught me how to think like that entrepreneur, like the business owner instead of the employee.
Yeah.
So it was that really like gave me the motivation and the curiosity to go and like try out new things. And it started with like me buying courses, like some Ty Lopez courses.
Yeah.
And then that led into like another thing, and then like YouTube videos and podcasts. And then eventually, I mean, I was just like, yeah, like I joined a podcasting mastermind, and that's where I met Thomas.
Okay.
And then
That's what started this.
yeah, I mean, I think I was already in Arte.
Okay.
You know Arte, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first group that I joined, and then from there I started meeting like a whole bunch of people, and then from Arte I went to the podcasting mastermind where I met Thomas, and then I knew he was the second
What?
behind Stuman,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
running the whole Apex thing,
That's right.
and then that day at the podcasting mastermind I signed up for Apex, you know,
And it's not
and-
cheap either.
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I
not.
mean? So that takes commitment.
Yeah, and then we were in Florida that day, and then we came back to Texas, like that next event that they had. That's when I showed up, and I told you I walked in. I was all nervous,
Yeah.
but as soon as I walked in the door, like the first person that was there was somebody I knew, so that kind of like eased me a little bit.
That's right. Yeah.
You know,
Calm you
he-
down a little bit.
Yeah, but
I
he
think
did
the
say
best-
what's up to me and everything. So
I think the best thing that I take away from that was you got yourself into a room that you didn't feel comfortable with,
yeah,
so that you can elevate and grow.
yeah,
And you got to put yourself into those scenarios. I think one guy we were talking about earlier today, or that we know of, is Brad Lee and Ed Milet.
Mhm.
And they both say this, so I don't take it lightly whenever they say this. They bought vehicles that they couldn't afford. The reason why is because it pushed them to make sure that they make enough money to pay for it.
Mhm.
And so what you ultimately did was you got yourself into a room that you probably weren't on the same income level that some of those guys were there
Definitely
for.
not. Yeah,
But with that being said, it pushes you a little bit more to get to that point. And I think, you know, with responsibilities like a car, I think that should be a mindset. Maybe if you don't physically do it, like go buy a car that you can afford, and you have to make the payment every month. If you don't, then you're getting your car repossessed.
Mhm.
And our minds are so crazy because I've been really studying on how to, you know, transform, like Romans says, in Romans 12:2 is, do not conform to this world, but be renewed and transform into a new, in your mind. You have to start with that one precept. And if you had that goal at the very end of the month where I have to make a $700 payment or even more, you're going to figure it out, right? And I think everyone should apply that in their life, whether if it's with relationships or in business, but have that goal that you have to hit. And if you don't, then, you know, you get repossessed.
Yeah,
And that's something that I've been trying to do each week, because if you have those weekly goals instead of a yearly goal, then it's going to be pushing you so you don't, you know, slack or procrastinate.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up that you were talking about, like the getting into these rooms, right, where you
yeah,
it pushes you to the next level, right? And like when you walk into these rooms, like everybody in that room doesn't. Everybody in the room motivates you to do better. Nobody's pushing you down.
yeah,
You know, you don't walk into the room and people are staring at you like, the fuck is this kid doing here? You know, and one of the most realest things that I've seen, especially now, or one of the realest things that I've heard, especially now with like the internet and everybody's like commenting on fucking shit, you know, all the time, is like people above you will never talk shit on you.
that's right.
It's always the people that are below you that
That's
are talking
exactly
shit.
right. 100%.
And I go into these comments, bro, of people that are,
100%.
you know, like Andy Frisella's clips or
Yep.
Ed Milet's clips, and everybody's like, you know, making reels, making remixes.
Yeah, if you go to their
talking shit.
profile, you know, someone's going to write a comment on there. You go to their profile, they don't have a profile pic.
Yeah,
They have 2 or 3 followers. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, that's ultimately what they're going to do the rest of their life.
yeah. They have
Is follow.
they have 100 negative comments,
That's
and
right.
all those people are people doing below whoever they're commenting on.
I couldn't agree with you more. I saw a video, and that brings up something that I saw where there was this guy critiquing Myron Golden.
Yeah,
Made a whole YouTube video. There's like 60, which is kind of uncommon for that many views, but I guess the thumbnail was pretty attractive. And so I clicked on it, and this guy is just completely everything that he did wrong, and it wasn't anything wrong, it was just something that offended him. He was able to spotlight and critique. And, you know, I was going to comment on there because the only time people do talk bad is if and when they're below that person. Because Myron Golden probably doesn't know who this guy is.
No,
right?
For sure, no.
So I don't know his motive behind it, but for that person to...
He knows he'll give views.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
You know, to make himself look better in a scenario where, you know, you have two choices at that time. Is like, okay, if something didn't go right, then that's not the right vehicle for you. You know, not the right person to follow. So he took the opposite route, though. He wanted to be prideful, talk about other people, and not take the responsibility. You made the decision.
Yeah.
You know, he paid, I think, $2,500 for one of his coaching groups, but ultimately, that's your choice. You made that decision, and you're 100% responsible for that decision. So don't blame someone else because you didn't get the good outcome that you were expecting, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to come across that. And as long as people know, like you and I, like we know we're going to get criticism. So use that as breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The more you get, then it's like, okay, awesome. I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, a good feeling.
I've seen people talk shit about Pastor Keith.
Well,
and it wasn't even on his page. It was like on some like random,
100%.
like another like guy's videos. Like, and this guy's pastor's like, you know, whatever he started saying. Yeah. And I was like, damn, bro. I'm like, that's
that just goes back to show me the proof on what you're criticizing. And I know Pastor Keith could do that. And I admire when people can say, okay, here's the receipts. Mm-hmm. If you're going to talk, then you can. But ultimately, if you know at the very end of the day that you're doing the right thing, who cares what people are saying, right? And that's where, in business specifically, I don't know if you've been through this, but being in business, it is difficult because there's some people out there that are always going to be like that. So I have to live on those principles of doing the right thing because, you know, you might have a customer call in and say some things that just aren't true. But as long as you can lay your head on your pillow at the end of the day and said, I know I can show the receipts. Mm-hmm. That gives you a good feeling knowing that that's something you can control. You can't control what other people are going to do.
You can only control yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you do that with, I mean, like, especially the industry that you're in, or like you're saying, door-to-door sales, like you go and meet clients.
Yep.
Like that type of sales is things that like rub clients the wrong way a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. The sales industry, you know, like your traditional car salesman.
Yeah.
It kind of ruined the whole transparency. I'm trying to be transparent, but they have a perspective of a sleazy, tactical sales representative. Where what I've been doing is setting expectations. And I'll tell people from the very beginning that there's going to be some roadblocks. There's going to be some things that happen. Because in any construction company, like solar is a construction project. You have to take it from one point, just like what you know, and there's going to be some things that might not go as smooth as a normal job, where if you set those right expectations to that customer and they happen, they're actually on our side because we told them up front. So I've been really trying to tell people some experiences that I've gone through, saying, hey, we've had a couple jobs that took longer than expected in the permit phase. And I know I said 30 to 45 days, but it might take 45 to 60 days. So if they get installed on day 60 and I brought it up before, smooth sailing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best thing I've done is set the right expectations. The second thing that I would recommend is if you're doing virtual, is if you're on Zoom, ask if this can be recorded, because you can bring back a recording and say, hey, this is actually what I said right here. I don't know if you remember, and you can send it to them. And I've got caught, a couple times where I didn't push record. And, you have to ask, obviously, if it's on Zoom and saying, hey, I'm going to record this. I'll upload it into a file. So if you have any questions about what we first discussed, go back and watch it. And there's been a couple cases where I didn't push record. And then come to find out, they're calling me saying, hey, you never said this. And, even though I said it, it's like there's nothing there to back it up.
Yeah. You can't be like, nah, bro, like I said it.
Yeah. They're not going to take your word for it.
Yeah.
So those are two things that I've done.
They might legit not remember.
That's true. So you have to give them benefit of the doubt.
So they probably be like, no, he didn't say it. And you're going to be like, yeah, I did say it. And it's like, well, who's right? Like they both think they're right. And
there's a lot.
You have that proof.
There's a lot of takeaways from that because, I don't know. It's kind of like when, when you're at the gym, someone's recording you, you're going to perform better. That's just how it is. Like, okay, you're going to put on a little bit more weight if someone's recording you.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm recording myself, I'm like, damn, I got to step up my game and make sure I'm spot on. And so challenges me to make sure that I'm lifting heavier weight than I normally would take on, right? And that's one thing I always laugh at myself. I said, why, man, I killed that Zoom. And I think because, you're being recorded. And the second thing I'll do is I'll send it to my team. So you can actually share not only to your client, but to sales leaders. And there's some snippets that you can take from that. And it's nice because you're not doing it at that point. Mm-hmm. You're just sharing what you've already done, and then they can use it for training material. Mm. So a couple takeaways.
Yeah, nice. I want to go a little bit personal here. Your wife. So how did you meet her? How did that come about?
This is a story we've told, and we never would have expected first because we were told not to. So let me tell you how I met her. This is pretty cool because how I moved here was I was recruited for a network marketing company, and that one specific person knew Michelle, or Michelle knew this one specific person. Mm-hmm. And so if you know this industry, if you recruit someone, you put them on, if it's a binary or a matrix vertical. Don't want to go too far into it, but this was a binary compensation plan, which means if you put them on one leg, and if you keep recruiting people, you can put them on that same downline. Mm-hmm. So he recruited me, and then Michelle came to an event, and then he ended up recruiting and putting Michelle underneath me in my business. Yeah. And the first rule that he told me was you cannot hook up with your downline, because that's what it's called, or anyone in your business.
Like further down.
Further down, because obviously like you're there for business, and our jobs are to help them make money, because if I help them make money, I make more. Yeah. And I love that model too. But he told me you cannot hook up or date any of your downline. I said, nah, dude. Like, I got you. I'm here for business. Yeah. And I still joke to this day because I was so confident saying, dude, I won't do that. And 2 months, I'd say, into the business, she started to look good. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. And I still told myself I'm not going to go out for dinner. And we were flirting here and there. And then one night she asked me to go out for a drink, and I said, okay, let's go. And it's kind of ironic is we both just got out of relationships. We weren't ready at all for jumping into, we're 6 years. And since that one time, 6 years together. So we didn't think we was going to be into marriage. We got into it knowing we're just two young, 25, 26-year-old entrepreneurs at the time. And she moved in with me. We haven't left each other since. And that's the best thing that's ever happened. And me being so frank with you, she's taught me more about myself than even I knew about myself. So whenever, if and when you ever find your match,
Yeah.
is to know that I've learned your spouse is not there to comfort you. Your spouse is there to pull out and to make you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen myself grow. My triggers that I have, I think we all naturally have triggers. Like what gets under your skin. And everyone will tell you that your wife will pull out your biggest triggers.
Yeah.
And it's true. But that's a good thing, because if you look at that and you actually know that that's not the problem, it's just a symptom of what's happened a long time ago. And that's whenever I started diving into trauma therapy and personal counseling, where we show up today as we are because of what happened to us in the past. So I was very reactive from my ex-girlfriend at the time. Whenever she would drink, she would be verbally abusive. So for me as a man, I couldn't protect myself, all but words. So my reactions were based on not because of what Michelle did, what because my ex did to me. And all I knew was to fight back with my words.
Yeah.
So how we met was not expected, and definitely was not even a thought process of, I'm going to marry that girl. It was kind of crazy because her sister, the first time that she met me, she told Michelle, you're going to marry him. And it's kind of crazy because, come to find out, we're 2 years into marriage.
So when she said that, how far along were you, like you and Michelle?
6 months.
Yeah.
Barely together. And
yeah, it was a brand new relationship.
If you would ask me that back then, hey, do you think you're going to marry this girl? I'd say absolutely not. But the best thing that I can tell anyone is that I don't think things go as planned. So it's like if I wanted to marry her, I don't think that would have been the destiny. So there's been a lot of trial that we've had, ups and downs. But if you have someone that stays through those ups and downs, that's what you want. And it's been a lot of downs from me, and that's where it's like, you have to look back, and it's not about anything whatsoever, but who is going to stick with you through the bad and the worst of the worst. And she was right there. Like, I'm just talking financially at this point, but so many other things where I was making great money at the time, and she was right there. But then come to find out, not making anything. Real estate transactions didn't fall through. $20,000-$30,000 in the pipeline. And then we're like, what are we going to do? Not a single doubt. And she was right there. And so that's what anyone that has a woman in their life that's staying through the good, that's awesome. But wait until things go wrong. Hard times happen, and see what happens then. Mm-hmm. And that's going to show character. And that's what showed me. And it's just been revealing each time this has happened, because we all go through seasons. And every single time she's been right there. And the more I talk about it, it's like, that's what you want right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, even like it's barely crossed a year that we met.
Yeah.
Like we met, I think it was March 10th or something. I think it was March 10th of last year.
You guys met.
So just over a year.
Through a divine connection through internet, right?
Yeah.
I think that's actually powerful, because what that is a tool. If you use it in a good manner, because that would have never happened if it wasn't for that one tool. Yeah. So I'm okay with those things, because that right there is so powerful, because there probably wouldn't be a chance you guys would have ever met if it wasn't for that. So I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
Because I see you bringing light out of him, and then vice versa. So.
Yeah, and when you said, like, she will reveal things about you that you didn't even know. Mm-hmm. Like, for sure, dude, so many times.
Tell me some.
I mean, just like times that, we argue and stuff, and like, she's like, oh, like, you're always doing this. Like, you say you're going to fix it, and like you have, but it's like it keeps happening.
Yeah.
and it's just like me getting mad over like some stupid shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
You're working too much.
yeah, no,
Or
like
what are some of the things, and then what's your response? Like, is it
maybe it's like, I want attention, right? Like, I want to feel like loved and wanted and everything.
yeah,
And say like if she doesn't answer or something, she doesn't text back quick, she doesn't answer her phone.
that's right.
Now I'm getting better. I feel like I'm getting better, but before it would be like, oh, like, why didn't you answer? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
I love, yeah.
And everybody does that in their like early, teens or whatever, early, like,
Yeah.
early 20s and stuff. And I can see that I was like that in the past too. Like, and I told you, like, with my ex, me and my ex were like that back and forth, like always. Oh, what are you doing? Why didn't I answer? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. The
And
questioning,
yeah,
like
the
what's
doubting
going
and
on?
stuff
Why,
like that.
what is he doing? It's all just
Yeah.
within our own minds.
And that's like one thing that like she brought up to me. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm probably asleep or something, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like I did come to realize that
Yeah.
like it was because of the past, and I
That's
don't want
it.
to do that moving forward because it's fucking stressful.
It is, bro. And what I would challenge you to do, because us guys, we don't like express how we feel that much, but when you have that one feeling, like if she's saying something that triggers you, dive a little bit deeper into that. And it's so much joy to understand yourself a little bit more. Where I had no idea I've been in counseling for a year, probably a little over a year now, where I'm diving into things that I didn't know on why I do the things I do. And if you take yourself back, and it doesn't even have to be back to your childhood, but just, past 5 years, you'll understand the way we are now. And it's so cool to do that. And I've been really diving in on understanding what I can do better for me, and not try to change my wife. That's been the best thing I've ever done, is that I can only focus on myself and becoming the best version that I can be, instead of looking at what I can change on the other side. So it's ultimately making my life better. That's unrealistic,
Yeah.
right? So
You make yourself better, you can inspire her to become better.
yeah, yeah. And I admire Pastor Keith, because he says that, and he looks at the positives of what's happening. And if something happens in my marriage, I'm not looking at it in that different lens of, man, she's always treating me like this, or, when am I ever going to? It's actually what I'm now doing is, okay, she's treating me this way because I'm not the person yet for her to be treating me the way that I want to. So first I need to change. So then maybe that will be a different response on what I'm saying to her. And it's actually working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, because if you do things the same way, you're going to literally get the same results. And I think that's just something I've understood, is that it takes change on my side first. And that alleviated so much pressure off my chest, because you can't control what other people are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book, I don't know if we talked about this, but it's called by Mel Robbins. And this has been huge. If you have you heard of her theory?
No.
It's called the let them theory. And it's so crazy, because we get held up on so many different things on what other people do, and we can't control it. And I'll send you some stuff so you can look at this, because what she teaches is to let them treat you the way that they're going to treat you, and don't let it affect you, because that's not our response to do. It's actually just theirs on how they are as a person. So you don't take it personally. That's one thing that I have a tendency to do, is because I like to see people happy and people please. That's one of my traits. And I get affected based on what other people do. And my emotions are going to be regulated based on how other people are, responding back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've just tried to understand, that I've never showed my emotions, and they're in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just understanding it more. I'd advise anyone to do that.
Yeah, we all got to work on that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask was, like, your wife, when you said you met her because she was placed under you in that vertical chain.
Yep.
So how did that affect your work? Did it affect it? Negative, positive?
To be honest, it actually made me better because I was trying to impress her. I
Yeah.
think that's just how I look back at it. I said, okay, it's not time to step up.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because you do get rewarded based on the results. And that's how I love business and entrepreneur. The more money you make is by total impact of people that you help.
Mm.
And I was really just, I put it in fourth gear and it was ready to rock and roll. And I think maybe she saw that as well. Like, okay, I've never seen anything like this. And it pushed me. So it didn't affect my business. So that's one thing. I think Alex Homozy and his wife, I think is it I forget her name, Layla,
Yeah.
is that he asked that question, does this woman make me better?
Mm.
And
That's what I was thinking of when you said
I'm like,
when you said that. Yeah.
whenever I look at these questions and I say, she does. And she did at that time. She wasn't holding me back. She wasn't trying to control me. So it was really nice to have that foundation where that would probably pull me away if I had someone that didn't have the same vision. And it was really cool to see that, like, go side by side.
Yeah. And then, so like when you went on your own, you started doing like you left, because you left that and then you started doing the solo, right?
Yep.
So what does she do?
Currently, right now, she's actually a therapist.
Did she leave also when
And
you left?
She left at the same time, and she got a real estate license. She became a realtor. She studied for that and got her real estate license. So that was her after the business. That's what she did, and she wasn't finding fulfillment, and I could see that. That's one thing where I think she was doing that because of me, because I was in foreclosure and helping homeowners in real estate, and we leverage it, which is nice to have that, in our portfolio. But she actually went to a university called it's a university based around our church, and it's called, like, I think Gateway University, Kingdom something along those lines. But she went and studied and got her master's in counseling, and she's helping kids go through therapy and trauma therapy. So that's what she's doing right now. She's becoming a counselor, and she just passed her test.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see a life, passion, drive
Nice.
that I saw that she had in this company.
Yeah.
And I love to see that, because I think everyone should truly pursue what they're passionate about. And I see that now, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. What advice do you have on that? Because I think people take that and maybe they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
Or maybe some people be like, oh, I can't make money off of my passions.
Well, you can. That's a lie from the devil, is knowing that what you've gone through, first you have to be able to say, I've overcame that. So your story is there to help and impact someone else. And if it's a big enough, impact, then you can create anything around that. So what she did is, she was very traumatized growing up with her family, and just, being raised with two girls in a household. I'm sure it's not easy for her parents.
Yeah.
And she had some things that happened when she was a kid that traumatized her. And 100%, I think that's probably one of the most overlooked things, is that kids that go through so much during their childhood, they don't know how to express it. So what she's doing now is she does play therapy. And it's really nice, because in a traditional therapist, you just sit side by side and you just talk about things back and forth. But these kids are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they don't know how to sit still. So they actually just will go through and do coloring books and play with just different toys. Are interactive, but they're asking questions while they're playing with these toys, so that they can understand these kids a little bit better and help them through some of their life struggles. But if it wasn't for what happened to Michelle during those ages as a kid, she would have never been able to help these kids, because she's overcame that.
Yeah.
So my advice to anyone that's looking to, maybe start their passion, or maybe even consider, what could I do in my life, is like, okay, what did you go through? And how could you help someone get out of that? And that's just something that, you know, I think creates a lot of passion and drive. First, you have to overcome it or study it. Because I don't know if you can truly overcome some of the things, but you can master that, you know, personal training, for an example. Someone that's 300 pounds that gets that new life and he goes and completely changes his life. Go and tell your story on how you did it. And you can create a little blueprint. And that story can relate to people that are 300 pounds and have the same struggles. And it's nice because you can see what that person, you know, ultimately has in common. And there should be a big enough reason to start a business.
To do that.
So it's fun to see people live it.
Yeah. How did your life change when, or I guess now, like you're trying to, because you've been working out for years now, like work out, take care of yourself, marriage, like you're very big on that, relationship,
Yeah.
networking, we talked about that, business, meeting clients. How do you juggle all of that? Because that's a lot, and all of that takes time.
Yeah, it does. And I'm definitely not perfect at this because I like to overwork. And that's one thing that you have to understand is that whenever you get into different things like marriage, you have to sacrifice some of the things that you're currently doing if you want that, which it has to be the second priority in your life. And most people say, why do you say the second priority? Because God has to be the first priority. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this morning when Pastor Keith was saying, I'm going to tell you something at this age, and he drew a triangle. You remember this?
Yeah.
He said, God is going to be right there. I'm going to be right here. You're going to be down here. And he said, as long as you are continuously chasing after God, and I'm continuously chasing after God, we can be the best that we can possibly be for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't do that. And that's why there's a big divorce rate in this crazy world that we live in, because they're not underneath that one principle is you're setting yourself up for failure. So, and I'm going to tell you right now, I've had to do that in my marriage, or even still becoming a Christian and knowing that I have to be more like Christ every day. If I ever get in intrusive thoughts, it's because he's not at the very top. So whenever I reflect on that, is it's God first, then my marriage, and then my business. But then if you see your marriage going down, you know, when you start to fight more and get in conflict, there's a reason. Is because there's something not aligned. Whether if it's God not at the very top, or maybe something else is in there, fitness, which it has been. And that's whenever you see your marriage decrease. So it's very difficult to balance all of that. But my advice, and for anyone, because this is such a huge help for me, is God has to be in control. You have to get those orders from headquarters. I said that last time about just knowing where you can go when you're asking for advice, and the only person that you can go to is right here, the book, the template. It's literally, it will give you everything that you need in every answer you're asking, or every question that you're asking. And I said this last week in a Bible study. This is a perfect time to bring it up. You know, we were talking about AI agents this morning.
Yeah.
I love this because this is so cool, where it's called Human in the Loop. Have you heard of that?
No.
This
What
is sick.
Yeah.
So there's an AI agent that you can create a trigger, and based on this trigger, you can say, AI agent, every email that's coming through my inbox, I want you to go read the email, and I want you to respond back to it, but I don't want you to send it. I want you to put it in a template for a draft. Okay, so this AI agent can go in and look at all of your email, analyze that email, and then respond back to that person, but it doesn't send it to that person. It puts it in a draft. Okay, are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is pretty cool because at the very end of the day, you can set these up, which is cool. And I'm trying to do this. But at the very end of the day, you can go and look at all of your drafts that the AI agent has drafted. What our jobs are to do as business owners is to read the message that the AI drafted up before we send it. Okay. And as long as it all looks good, then you can push send, and now it's sent off to your client. But if there's a couple changes in there, you know, we know what to say and we know how to change it. And no, I don't want to say it this way. I'd rather tweak one little word and then push send after I make some adjustments. So last week in this Bible study, I created this amazing scenario, and it's called Jesus in the Loop. Okay. And whenever I said that, I said, okay, this is a perfect example because I'm going to be the one that's going to be creating the message, which, let's just say if I'm about to respond back to my wife, I'm not going to respond until I have that Jesus in the loop conversation where I want him to overview it, look at it, make sure it's actually right for me to say to her before I say it. And most of the time, it's not going to be the right way to say it because it's not, I'm so new at marriage. No, don't say it this way. Just make small little tweaks. You have the right intentions, but I want you to say it this way. And he's going to be the one that overviews, and before it's even said or any actions that I do, I'm bringing Jesus into the loop. And I'm doing this now with everything, with my business, with my marriage, with my friends, with my mom, dad. So I can actually, before I do anything at all, I'm having conversations with God and making sure he's there to look at what I'm about to do or say. And as long as it's good, then I'll just go and say it and go and do it. But if you stop right there and just bring him in, overview this, say, hey, this is what I'm about to say. I'm pissed at my wife and I don't like how she's talking to me. And more than likely, he's going to make some changes and say, don't say that. Say this instead, because it's going to accomplish the same thing on what you're trying to say. And this is where it comes down to understanding he's the answer. And he's the one that can actually just edit some of the, messages that you're going to do. But why wouldn't you want that to have him overview that draft before you push send?
Yeah. So,
and it was just a really good analogy because in the AI industry, it's nice to have that done for you. And then making sure our job is to just push send once it's ready. And that's what God is there to do, literally.
So on that, whenever, like you're saying, you're pissed, you want to send this message, but you're heated in the moment, right? More than likely that's not what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
You bring him in the loop, he revises it.
Yep.
And then now there's like the new actual message that you need to send.
That's it. And it's not necessarily send, it's actually say or do whatever I'm about to do that I normally would do.
And do you feel that before that moment though? Like before that moment?
No.
You don't doubt it?
Well, no. I personally, I think it's a natural thing not to do that because we want to say what we want to say. Like you want to stand up for yourself. And that's where I'm telling you is that what I'm doing is trying to stop at that point before I do it and get this advice from our Lord and Savior to make sure this is the right way to approach it. And if I can have that one thing in mind, and which is it's going to help, I'm going to see life transformation. But what were you asking? I want to make sure.
Yeah.
You said, are you going to do, or what were you going to say? Because I stopped you and I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Because you're saying like whether it's in person and text, through Facebook, whatever, Instagram.
Yeah.
When you're mad, before like you stop yourself, right? You want to say this, but then you're like, I'm not gonna say it because it might sound harsh, whatever.
Yep.
You stop yourself, and then you have moments to think. You're saying bring God in the loop.
Yep.
He revises the message, and then you're a little bit more calm. You're like, all right, like you draft something, like let's just say it's through text. You draft it through text, and before you send it, you're like, damn, like okay, like it's written better. You're calm. You're at ease, but you're like it doesn't feel right. Do you ever get that? Or you're like, this is not what I'm feeling like.
Oh yeah. It doesn't feel right because you're not used to doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to start.
Because it's not coming from you.
That's right. And it's not what we're normally used to doing. So it's going to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But as long as you literally get that advice and reflect on this response back, I guarantee it's going to be way better than the first response.
For sure.
100%. So that's what I'm going to, not only in my marriage, but in every aspect in business, where if there's a customer that is handling things the wrong way, I'm most of the time, you know, it's very tough to hold yourself back, but I'm just going to bring him in, ask me, what do I do? Like, here's the draft. Like, here's what I want to say. And then just go to the book and say, okay, what does he say in these scenarios? And then have him just rewrite it. And then that's more than likely going to take all the pressure off of you and say, damn, it wasn't me that sent it. You know what I mean? And if I sent it,
but even you feel better after that.
You feel way better, and you're learning. And that's application from someone that teaches you. And that's the best thing that we can ever do, is just know that we do things now because we don't know any different. You respond back to her because you don't know any different, right? Until we just make small changes. And it's so nice that we get that choice to grow and not respond that way. But it takes application.
Yeah.
And nothing that we do at the very beginning, we don't know how to do it. Yeah. So we just have to seek advice and do it and fail. Learn do it again and seek advice from others that have gone through there so you can go faster, you know?
Yeah, so you brought up the AI agents. So
yeah, bro.
Last time we talked too, you said that you were trying to automate most of your business.
Yeah.
So can you just dive deep on that and what are you trying to do exactly?
Dude, it's crazy. Yeah, that is something I want to do and I'm going to do. And what I advise anyone, I think what I was telling you earlier is to implement AI into your business, because if you don't, someone else is going to, and you'll be left behind. So very beginning, 2 years, I've been really diving in on how to study it and apply it and test it. And right now is really fun because there's so many tools out there that can do a lot of things for us that we don't technically have to do. Like small tasks right now is all of my content, all of my training. There's an AI tool we went over called Notebook LM, and you can put in a YouTube video. And let's just say if I want to have a sales training on how to overcome objections, I can actually go find 10 videos online from, the best that know how to handle objections. And I can upload it into this AI platform, and it just analyzes and gives me key topics on what to say and how to say it and send it out to my team. Where I would have to watch all of those sales trainings, write some things down, try and study it for training material, and then put it into a PDF to go and do a sales training. You don't have to do that anymore. It's like upload this video, all 10 of them, into this one platform called Notebook LM. And then you push submit, and it's going to analyze all 10 of those videos. And then it's going to compose it into a summary of a study guide from all 10 of those videos. And it's a matter of 2 minutes, and that's done. And then it can actually create that podcast feature that I was telling you about, where it generates back and forth conversations. So you can hear all 10 videos extracted and summarized in a matter of 12 minutes. Because they condense it, and it's a faster way to learn first. Another thing that I would recommend anyone to do is very easy. It's free. It's ChatGPT, where you can actually literally ask questions to this advisor, because it's going to give you answers way faster than anyone that you could ever call. And so some small things that I've been doing, studying. The next thing would be to implement a full agency where you have, like we were talking this morning, your marketing team, your financing team, everything structures start to finish, and it's handling, I'd say 75% of your business. The hardest part that I think we can get into is finding the right platform or finding the right AI agent, because it's getting better and better. So don't let that hold you back, and then just know it's going to change. So that's the hard part, is knowing which is the right platform to go with at first. And I don't think there really is. It's just a matter of starting. And if you need a change to another platform, then you can.
Yeah, we're still very early for you to start testing out and trying out different things.
Yeah.
There was one that you talked about at the gym. That's the one. Was it the loop one or something? That you said that you,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like you create triggers and then it does like things for you.
Yeah. It's so over my head because I'm not a tech guy, but it's so interesting to me because, you know, there's other people that I'm learning from that are showing what type of technology is out there. And I was sharing with you this morning, it's called Roo Coder, ROO, and then Coder. And it does everything for you. Literally, you prompt it. So I did this small prompt. And I don't know in your business, but in my business, it's nice to have, if a lead comes in, let's just say if someone goes to the website and puts in their information and push submit, right when that lead comes in, you can have an AI agent that will call this lead, welcome them, saying, hey, we just got your information submitted. We have your estimate ready. When's a good time to book an appointment for one of our experts to go over all of your numbers? And then when the customer responds back, okay, Tuesday works, perfect. And what time, 2 or 4? 4, perfect. We're going to send you a text and email with a confirmation right after this phone call, and we'll see you at that time frame. And this is all done remotely. Sends a text, books it on the calendar, and then, you know, obviously notifies in a Slack. But how would you build that, right? You don't know where to even start.
Yeah.
So what Roo Coder does, it literally blows my mind. I typed in, build me a fully deployed AI agent that will call a customer right when the lead comes. I'm typing this in Roo Coder. Build me a fully start to finish, fully deployed call agent that will call my leads right when they come in. And I wanted to book the time from my personal calendar, from Google Calendar, that's available. And if it's not available, find another time to do this. And whenever they book a time, I want you to book it on my calendar, send a calendar invite to them, a text message, and notify me. Enter. And the next thing you know, it goes and it's doing it all for me. And it's building it. And you have to just wait for, I'd say, 5 minutes, and it was ready. I didn't build it. I didn't do anything. It asked me questions to get AI, like my API for my calendar. It set me up a Zapier account for the voice audio. It picked an audio, looked at scripts. I had to verify the script. And I just pushed enter. And then it was ready to deploy. I said, this is insane. And then I said, okay, I'm going to try it again. Next thing you know, I said, build me a fully deployed, because I'm trying to get like website and landing pages. And I said, build me a fully deployed website that will capture the best lead generation for the new Tesla Powerwall 3. Enter. And then fully deployed. And it's built for you, ready to go. And then you can custom put it to a domain. And then you can make small little tweaks, but you're telling that, like literally someone you have to pay thousands of dollars for to do it, and it would take months to do, right there with the button. And I'm sitting there at my computer, I'm like, this is insane. This is insane. And I built a calculator, because what we're doing is tracking on how many outcalls, outbound we're doing a day. And I don't know how to track that. So I said, can you build me a full CRM tracking metrics on text messages sent, appointments booked, and then appointments closed, so I can have my team track this daily. You push enter. And then it built me a fully calendar for how many texts were sent, how many appointments were booked, and how many deals were closed that day, so I can track it. And it was boom. And it was in white, like this background was in white. I said, can you make it in black? Just small changes. Pushed enter, changed it in black. And that's what I'm like, the future, that right there is the streamline process. And I'll show you this because it's easy to set up. It's just hard to find it and how to get everything set up. But dude, that's your business. And you can actually, like with editing videos, you can upload this video into the command center. I don't know what you call it, but that's what it is. Apparently, and you say, I'm going to upload this podcast. I want you to extract all the audio and put captions on this video for me, and you push enter, and it will do it for you. So that's what I'm trying to transition to, but I don't want to get lost in doing those stuff. I want to actually do it where I have an outcome. Like, here's my fully automated business. I was just testing that. And so now that I know it works, now it's implementing it. Yeah. So I have everything start to finish done for you. And I think that's the most powerful thing you can ever have.
And you're using those things already? Or?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was last week, because I follow a guy on YouTube that teaches it, and he will literally walk you through it. And normally I wouldn't do these types of things. Because I have virtual assistants that would set up these things for me. And I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you do this? I said, I don't know. I'll have my VAs, I'll connect you. Yeah. But I want to be the one saying that I did at the very beginning. And then I'll have my VAs improve it, tweak it. Yeah. But I want to be the one that's like, no, I went through the hard hours and hours and hours of podcast videos. And I'm like, no, this wasn't easy. Yeah. And I think that's something that we need to understand, that when people that have the outcome, like Pastor Keith or anyone that we look up to, it was not easy. And you can't expect it to be easy. And I'm spending a lot of hours right now just watching videos, mastering the craft, sharpening the axe, so that I can pass it to people that I care about. And it's just a lot faster, right? So I'm just getting started, but whenever I do it, I'll set it up for you. Or I'll teach you how to do it, so we can scale together.
Yeah, because I told you I want to do it for the podcast, right? Like, yes, I told you, like, I started this years ago, but the past years I haven't been consistent. And like now this year's like, it's a focus. Yeah. So if there's a way that I can implement AI to automate it, dude, 100%. Content, everything, then
you can.
I'll do it.
You definitely can. And one of my guys right now, he's a biblical entrepreneur, and his goal is to teach entrepreneurs business. And which is something I would recommend you to do, because I'm trying to do it now, is create your avatar, like your AI like clone. Dude, and it can't be. It doesn't have to be like a animated cartoon. You can, but he created his own clone,
exact self.
Dude, and he prompts it. It looks just like him. And whenever I looked at his Instagram, he was like a carousel with like 10 photos teaching business principles. It wasn't him, but it looked like him, So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just fun for me, bro. So yeah. I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Yeah, Gary Vee said that. He's like, in the next decade, you'll have like influencers that are AI that's exactly an exact clone of like the actual person, but it's not the actual person.
100%.
And well, I was telling her about like home service businesses, right? Like they're starting to get hot.
They are, bro. And they are.
I was telling her, I don't know if I heard it somewhere. Like if you, or I've seen companies where they have like their little cartoon character, and there's this company from Arizona called Floor Daddies. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
You know a Clever Investor?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's his company.
Okay.
He like partnered with some other guys.
Yeah.
And then like he has an actual like character of Floor Daddies.
100%.
And I was telling her, I was like, this thing's like what's gonna attract people to buy from him.
Dude,
I was like, I need to start creating a character too for my business.
You do. I'm telling you right now, because it's happening right now. Is branding is the most important part. But if you can catch this new shift, like Gary Vee says, and a lot of other people that are saying it, is you need to get into the AI innovation, because this is the time that can just help your business, not take over, but leverage it. And that's one thing I want to challenge you to do that.
Yeah.
So I think, I want to ask you a question with your endeavors. You're building in McAllen, you're doing some big projects. Like what do you want for your business? And I'd say in 6 months from now, where are you going to be, and what do you want to do in business wise? Because I know that you have some big goals.
Yeah, I mean, and like everything that I'm doing business wise.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to, for sure, I don't want to miss with the podcast. Like every week, something.
Yeah.
You know, there's
bring some type of content.
Yeah, like content every day, posting every day, every week, new episodes, reaching out to bigger names, having bigger people on.
Yeah, that's sick.
Just still continue doing the electrical thing.
Okay.
And in 6 months, I mean, we're gonna finish that house, and we're gonna start building.
Nice, bro.
Yeah, I mean, less than 6 months. It takes like 4 months.
Start to finish.
Yeah.
You're doing all of it.
Yeah.
That's sick.
So yeah,
That's
so
sick.
my dad called me yesterday. I think it was yesterday, right? Yesterday, and he says like, yeah, this week we'll start like pouring the dirt on the
Nice.
like to elevate the house. And he was just asking me about the permits and stuff. And I mean, that's starting this week. You know, we're ready. The bank already finished the closing, the loan, and everything.
That's gonna be cool to
So that's
actually
gonna
see
be
the
finished.
process.
Yeah, that's gonna be finished for sure.
Like start to finish, see what it takes.
Yeah,
You should document.
yeah. That's
You
that's
should
the plan.
document that whole
That's the
process,
plan.
and you probably are already thinking about doing
Yeah,
that
she keeps saying that
because
She's like,
that's
I wanna
important.
document it. Yeah,
Because now you're actually going through 6 months or whatever, 4 months you say,
hopefully.
of process that most people
Yeah.
don't ever know how to do, and you can bring that value to them. That's gonna be sick.
So build it, sell it, and then hopefully start a second one within the
Ooh.
6 months.
Dude, that's money, bro.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, that's I admire that because it takes a lot to start to finish, do it. And you know, there's going to be some challenges that happen. And one thing that I would love to see is create like what challenges actually happen versus showing the all the nice smooth stuff. This is day 2, this is
Yeah.
day 14, it's going perfect. No,
Say
show me what
The wrong.
show
shit.
me the wrongs. Like, where did you mess up? What could have you done better? I think that'd be really cool to see. And that's a good hook.
'Cause nobody does that.
I don't think so.
No.
You know, not most of the time you see all the, you know, all the good stuff. I think that'd be nice to actually be just a little different and then showing how you overcame that. I think
Yeah.
that'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be. And making emphasis on hey, we made a post.
Yeah.
Shit went sideways this day.
Yeah, that'd be fun too.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you was, because you had a meeting last week with, I think 2 weeks ago, with the company in phase
Mhm.
in the solar industry. I think you need to get your name out there in that specific space for new home developments. I don't know if you know, people are already starting to do this, but it's an energy loan provider that does new home construction loans. So when people buy a house, they're normally going to get qualified for a certain amount, you know, for their loan. The best time I'm going to tell you, you know, on the construction side for anyone to get a solar system is if they pay cash, which means that the best time for anyone to get a solar system would be at the time they purchase the home with their loan amount, because that's what they're doing right now. They're getting a certain dollar amount approved for their construction project. My recommendation would be to add that dollar amount of what their solar system would cost into
At the
their
budget.
at their budget.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that can, you know, take advantage of that, because first, if they did that, it's built already with the home, so they move in day 1, they don't have to do it. Number 2 is if it's in their construction loan mortgage, they're not paying any utility charges because it's built in. It's providing all of their electricity needs. So if you have that testimony, and that's where you can get a lot of referrals, is like if you stood out and be like that what's different about this company that's building homes? Well, we build homes with a full energy grid, backup battery system done by Tesla, all smart home technology. And, you know, come to find out 2 years later, they haven't had a utility bill since they moved into the home. And then that is a story for business reoccurring, but then also selling the home for that person. Think about buying a house with no utility bill. You know, and it's nice because if they sold the home, it would sell faster, it would sell for more. And if you stamp your name of knowing that that's what your business does. That's what I was thinking earlier.
Yeah.
So get your name out there, and InPhase is what we use. It's a great company, good branding, and leverage that branding. And Tesla, same thing.
Yeah. But yeah, like being a home builder that installs it with the solar panels,
100%.
and then
An option at least.
sending it, yeah.
Because if you don't have that option, like I said earlier, you don't have an opportunity to make money on that. So because you would make money on that solar offer.
Yeah.
And if you don't at least saying, hey, yeah, we do some upgrades. One of them is
Solar.
Tesla power walls, backup battery for the home. Have you ever considered it? And if they do, saying, yeah, well, I'll build you up a package and you can add this to your total construction project.
That's good. Yeah.
And you're not making money on just what you're doing in business, but you're making money also on your solar business. And that's where I would come into play. Because that's ultimately where I've got into roofing, is because I was leaving an opportunity on the table whenever I was selling solar and they needed a new roof. So now I'm making money on both. I didn't know anything about roofing. Probably the same thing with solar.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Takes time and, leveraging
So
partners.
like with the roofing and the solar, do you connect them together, or?
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
But vice versa. So whenever a
You have
roofer
your go-to. You have your go-to.
have go-tos, but that's actually something I teach and train is when you're looking for, in a consulting business, how do you get clients? Ultimately, is I went to the roofer instead of them coming to me, and I brought them a roof. So I would actually go and get this roofing company that I had my eye on, and I would bring them business. But before I give them the business, it's an exchange for what I do. So I'll give you this roof and I'll continue to keep sending you roofs, but as long as you send me clients for solar. And it's nice because that's ultimately what I think anyone should do is, I have a client for you. I don't know anything about solar, and you would come to me, and I call it the peak and pass method. You're going to pique someone's interest and then pass them over to an expert.
Yeah.
So that's what I want you to do. Anyone that asks about Tesla, span, like we install those smart breakers, and you could probably install those. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, we've installed 2 spans, I think.
Those are sick.
I mean, yeah, a couple of years ago though,
But you should be branding yourself, because that right there is like that's something you're in, and that span is fully integrated into these power walls where you have full home control, and they're the workload management. And their app is pretty cool from Span. You've seen that,
Yeah.
but the Tesla Powerwall can be just all controlled to those breakers. And power outages happen here in Texas, so I think in McAllen more so than here.
yeah.
But
I'm sure we had some on Friday,
did you?
or Thursday,
Yeah.
when the flooding, the video I sent you.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
sure we
it's
had
happening.
a lot of outages, that day. Walk me through the process though, like, because you started selling solar. So if you would come to somebody, go visit a client and they needed a new roof.
Yeah. It's the same process that you do with any job, is preliminary assessment. And you ask questions before any job, right? How old is your roof? Has it been damaged? Have you ever had it replaced? When was the last time you filed a claim? And we do this all the time because that roof has to have a solid foundation before we put the solar system on. So if that was the case, you're going to do exactly what you normally do. Is you're going to call your insurance adjuster, file a claim, get them out there. And once they approve the claim, then you're just set and left to pay your deductible, right? So it's 2% typically for the value of your home. So if it's a $200,000 house, it's $2,000 for your deductible. Now, most people and most roofers will pay for their deductible, but that's illegal. You can't pay for someone's deductible. They still do it all the time. But what you can do is roll the $2,000 deductible into their solar project, because they're financing their solar project, right? So you're technically not paying for their deductible. You're just rolling it in to the financing. And you can get a brand new roof and solar for no cost out of pocket to the customer because they're just financing their roof deductible and their solar system. So at that point, we would actually start the process with solar. It takes anywhere from 30 to 45 days. We have to get the roof done before, and these financing companies give us a certain dollar amount to fund the project. So we'll get the new roof on before the solar system, and then right after the roof is done, we'll install our solar, and there's not any money out of the customer's pocket. And it's fully legal because you're not paying for their deductible. There's a lot of actually home improvements that people are doing right now, electrical being one of them, into these projects. And what I mean by that is that there's a problem, and that's what we are called to do, is solve problems. So if they have, 150 amp breaker, their breaker box is full, we can upgrade their breaker, and I'm upgrading them to a span into their total project costs. So they're financing all of this. And these lenders give us up to $100,000 for financing, and they don't need that much, but you can roll different services into these solar projects, but you're making money on not just the solar, but you're making money on the roof. We're selling HVAC systems, smart breakers, Tesla Powerwalls, charging stations. And you want to brand yourself that way, because anyone that comes, and I have this all the time, is not just solar, but span or HVAC systems. And you can just, get multiple business from just one service.
Yeah. So at the same time, you're making the entire house energy efficient.
That's the goal. Yeah. I think it's crazy to me when people, whenever it comes down to investing into their home, they don't want to do it because it costs. Over the time, it's better to invest into those things because you're going to save money over the long term. It's literally what people do for Costco. They don't want to pay for the membership because, ultimately it costs them more money. But the value is where you get, you save money once you pay for that membership. The same thing is that you're investing into home efficiency items, and you might pay for it now, but you're going to save in the long run. But the mindset that we have is no, I'll just go to Walmart because I don't have to pay a membership.
Yeah.
But you're spending more money by not taking action.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. I think you just had to bring up an analogy like that to make them see it.
You do, because if they did see it, and if they look at, and that's what I do in my business is, electricity is electricity. Give me some power for my home, and I don't care where it comes from. So that's where you have to think about this is, I'll pull up this analogy for a gas station. I'll tell my client this, and I'll say, okay, if you're driving down the street and you see QT on this side and you see 7-Eleven on this side, literally, and you need gas, but QT is $2.30, and then 7-Eleven is $2.80. Where are you going? You're going to the cheaper gas, right? The same exact concept with solar is you're paying 18 cents for electricity, for the same electricity that this solar is going to produce. It's just coming from the sun versus the grid. It's identical. But if I can get your rate down to 14 cents per kilowatt, why would you want to stay and pay 18 cents per kilowatt? So I have to break it down so people understand what this is. Because if they say, no, I'm not going to go solar, okay. Go to the gas station that's charging you 40 more cents. And it doesn't make any sense. So it's I'm really diligent with that, because I'll have clients that come back and saying, I should have done this earlier. There's two scenarios that I'll tell my clients is you're going to say two things to me. Number one, I'm glad I did. Or number two, I wish I would have. And then I'll let them make the decision.
Mm-hmm. I heard something too about, there was something in the electrical about that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I can't remember.
I like what Alex Hermosi says, and I think a lot of people is when people say, how much is this going to cost? I'll bring it up and I'll say, how much would this cost if you didn't do something like this? Or cost, you might save some money now, but what is it going to cost you in the long run for not doing something like this?
Yeah.
And that's just ultimately trying to get to the right person. And there's some things that, I've changed tremendously, is not beg for the business, but bring enough value to that person where they're making the decision. So I give them an option saying, you have option here or here. And if you bring enough value, more than likely you're going to earn that business.
Yeah.
And if you're transparent, if you're honest, if you give them a good deal, more than likely they're going to do it because they don't feel that buying pressure. And if they're telling me, yes, this is the route that we want to go, it's not me saying what most people, sales guys, are trying to beg for the business. But you shouldn't have to beg for the business if you're bringing enough value for them to go your direction.
And your job is like to allow them to see the value.
That's it.
And like in the electrical, I heard somebody say, is like, you got to talk to your client like in the simplest form. You don't want to like start saying all these terms that they don't even understand, because they're going to be confused. Like they don't even know what you're talking about.
100%.
Instead
talk to them like like kindergarten, where if they can understand it, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Because if you go any higher than that,
anything, yeah.
Yeah.
So because some clients, they understand it. They understand what the terms are and stuff like that, but most don't.
I
agree. Like you're saying, talk to them like a kindergarten. If they can understand that, then it's like they see the value in it.
That's it.
But if you start talking to them like you expect them to know what you're talking about, you're gonna lose them, bro. Yeah,
I'm so interactive with my clients, and I'm having them tell me what I'm saying. And if they tell me, there's this, I say, does this make sense? And explain what I just said. If they do it the right way, then I explained it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going on tangents and you're talking too much, like they're lost.
Yeah.
And I've learned, to keep it simple, make sure that the customer is actually like involved. So being really immersive. Yeah. 413. And it just takes time, bro. So it's all about getting in front of people. Like what the 4 moves, if Myron Golden, is leads and lead conversion. Those are the only 2 things I focus on right now.
Yeah. That's solid, bro. What else? What else are you working on? What else you got going on?
Right now is implementation. Like I said, with AI, like I'm really trying to implement and making sure it's not just me in the research phase. It's like I want to apply and making sure that the outcome is 75% of my day-to-day tasks are all automated. Because if you look at a business right now that has employees, that's technically like what you want to do, but all AI, because they can do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's just
take phone calls, book appointments, invoice, send the invoice, confirm your appointment, just small basic stuff. That's what I really want to make sure it's in place and it's not difficult to do. So you just got to just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's powerful. And like doing, because we talk like AI has developed so fast, but even like nobody's still using it. The majority of people still don't even use it.
No.
They know about Chat GPT, but they still don't even use it that much.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how fast like even that has developed. Like if you're really in it or if you're really like trying to look for it, like you'll find so much of it already, and it's still nothing.
It's so definitely not.
If you can implement like the smallest things that you're saying, like Joe, just put an appointment in my calendar, call the client, text the client back, email the client back.
Yeah.
Post this on Instagram for me. You can make it do these little things. You're way ahead of the whole wave.
Yeah, you have to keep that in mind. Is like back in the day when computers started to surface, or even cell phones too. It's going to take some time even for AI to come and surface, but the people that start and just understand it more, so don't get too overwhelmed right now because you're just getting started. It's like just start, and then as you grow each year, make sure it's just becoming, more involved. But don't let it take over. And that's what's like I have to keep at the forefront. I saw, and I'll send this to both of you. This is probably the craziest and scariest thing I've ever heard on a response on what if you ask ChatGPT, how would you take over in our world today if you were going to implement a world takeover? And everything that is happening right now with AI is what phase? There's 4 phases. And when you hear this, it's scary because if you don't know, or if your enemy is trying to attack you and if you don't see him coming, they're going to just straight headshot and you're done. And every phase that this goes through, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, is exactly what's happening right now. And it's scary. So it will give you goosebumps. And if you can share that to other people, share it. But then make sure that it doesn't shy them away from AI. It's a matter of knowing that that's what it can do and that's how powerful it is going to be, and making sure that we're on this side of it, because on every, which I talk about pretty often, is that what you frame, there's a positive and negative of every scenario. And I want to be on the positive of what's happening, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I will send that to you, and you will thank me for seeing it, but it will scare you for watching it because it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frisella says that it was like you can't stop it anymore.
No.
You know, and it's like, if you don't, like, eventually he says that he doesn't like it, but he says that he's going to have to use it,
adapt, and
because if not, the other companies that are competitors of him are going to use it. And like you're saying, they're just going to wipe you out.
Yeah, I think last time we had the podcast, this is probably the best analogy, because I love visuals, is I'm going to the shooting range and I'm going to test out different AIs, and I'm seeing what's out there so I know how they operate. And I know which ones are the most powerful, and I know when to use them. And I think that's right now, where I want to be I want to create like a little inner circle for what I'm using, what's good, what's not good, how to implement it, what to stay away from. And I think that's why people go, to the gun range, is making sure they know what are the biggest difference from, your AK-45 and your standard just handheld gun, because there is big differences.
Yeah.
And as long as you know how to handle them, then you know when to bring out those at the time they're called for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the last time that we were here, we were saying, like, you're testing out all these like platforms and softwares and stuff. Like, when I was telling you about the AI agents, I mean, like, just because you inspired me to like start getting into it. Like, that's the whole reason I bought it.
That's right, bro.
Just to go in there and like see what's up. Like, how does this work? Because I saw ads for the longest time,
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck it, I'm buying this. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
And I was telling her that I wanted to pay for the plus version of ChatGPT.
Oh yeah.
Also to see, like, what kind of things it can make and shit like that.
It's $19.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you inspired me to do that research of like, I'm gonna try this like for a month, see what it's like. I'm gonna try this for another month.
Yeah.
See what it's like, and then try to
That's awesome,
use
bro.
it first for the podcast, and then for other stuff.
Yeah, that makes me feel good, because I get really discouraged sometimes whenever I think other people are already bringing that type of value, which they are. But I do want to be a vessel on different things like AIs that I'm doing. So I'm going to hold myself accountable to stay consistent, but then also have like a community or something that I can post what I'm doing, what's working, what's not, what videos I'm watching, and live testing. So guys like, my crew can see and implement. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I need to hear that.
Yeah, that's dope. Like, building that community, man. Like the community of,
Yeah, I agree, bro. And I'm thankful that we're aligned, and I'm thankful we're getting closer, because I think that's us sharpening our axes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, how much time do we have? Just so I know.
10 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, as we're wrapping up, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to bring up? I know we went all over the place.
Yeah, well, man, this has been great.
Yeah.
So I think, what I'm ultimately, I think this whole past hour and a half is like things that are going through, and what we're doing right now. One thing that I shared last time was, God has to be in control of your business and making sure he owns your business was one of the biggest changes that I've made in, my life. And it's been such a huge impact. And I wanted to share the next thing that I think that would bring a lot of value to you and anyone that owns their own business or is an entrepreneur. And I didn't know this because I've been in this scenario, and I'll send it to you because it's a great resource. And it says avoid, and not avoid, but do not do any 50-50 partnerships. And you go into business with your boy, or like if you come into business with someone, think about this, because if you were 50-50 partners in an LLC, don't ever get an LLC with someone, is what my life lesson from me to you would be. And I'll tell you the reasons why. Is that if you, and let's just say you and I are 50-50 business partners in a new solar endeavor, and we've signed an LLC partnership together. And then come to find out that I get confirmation from God on what direction that I want to go next. And if that confirmation is so clear to me, and then I bring something to you as a 50-50 partner, and you don't receive it because you can't receive it, it was actually delivered to me from God, then that's actually holding me back from what God wants me to do. Because I have to ask permission to my partner. 50-50 partners, like like if you're doing business the right way, I would ask you if this is the right thing to do. And you're actually shooting yourself in the foot, because if God tells you to walk, you walk. And I look back at a photo earlier of, there's two sentences. Obedience is my job. Outcome is God's job. So if I can't be obedient in what he tells me to do, and if I know it's right, and then you're holding me back, he's like, no, dude, I don't think that's the right move. That right there is going to hold people back from what God is trying to get them to. And once I learned that lesson, I said, okay, I've been in so many 50-50 partners. And I thought it was, no, okay, I think you're right. We shouldn't do it. And I'm just conforming and trying to say things that I don't want to piss you off, or, whatever the case might be on why we didn't do it. But that's blocking the blessing. So if I can pass that while we finish up, the number one life rule in business that I have changed and implemented is I don't own my business, nor do I want to, because I've made a lot more mistakes whenever I owned it versus God owning my business. So I'm asking for confirmation before I do anything. And just that stopping point on, just like we said, Jesus in the loop. So him as the owner saying, yeah, this is the right movement and this is what you should be doing. Or if I do it, then I get lessons learned and doing it different next time. Then the second thing, and this is the newer principle, is avoid 50-50 partners. Not saying that you can go into like joint ventures, but 100% ownership, 100% ownership. And then anything that you're doing isn't going to be blocked by that other partner, because you own the 100% of the business in an LLC form. And if God tells you to do something, you're not being held back from anyone but yourself at that point for direction. And I think it's the most powerful thing is obedience is our job. And I can just do what God has told me to do, and outcome is God's job. And I think that's going to save a lot of people if they just listen to that one, because I've lost so much money and relationships. I think that's the devil's plan, is to have people come into business and sign an LLC and get excited. And the next, 2 months later, they're hating each other. I see this all the time in business, and it breaks my heart, because I've had partners that I loved and I resent. And I think that's just a tactic that the devil does in this world that we live in. And if I can share that with you, just avoid it and own that business and act with obedience. That's it, bro.
Powerful last message.
Yeah, I needed to hear that once again. Remind myself that daily.
Cool. Tell the audience where they can find you.